When my wife and I first started talking about spending several $100s on an espresso machine, that felt ludicrous at the time. We'd been using mocha pots for years and getting espresso-like quality coffee that we thought was good enough. But after we purchased this, we were blown away by the results. And honestly, when you think about it, if every drink you make is $5 to $7 at Starbucks, the amount of money you save in the long term, especially if you have multiple people drinking coffee, really pays for itself very quickly. So I'll show you how easy this is to make an espresso shot on it and show you some of the pros and cons and tips you need to know for keeping this unit functioning in tip-top shape for years to come. So I'll go through the process here from start to finish and just show you how we normally make our coffee. So typically there would be a shot in here. Someone's already, oh no, it actually stuck to the top. So that happens from time to time too. So make sure your puck didn't stick to the top from the last one. Dump that out in your knock box. And then I usually would just manually run a shot to rinse this off to get the coffee off the outside of it, and also to clean the where the water comes out and to heat that up and heat up this as well, so have better extraction. So you can just do a regular normal shot, a single shot or a double shot, but I'll usually press and hold it so that it runs a manual shot, and then I can just hit it again to turn the water off whenever I want. So now that's in manual mode. It's going to run a single shot of water through the machine, and I can just use this to rinse off the excess coffee here. And in the same time, it's also not only getting that old coffee off, or coffee grounds off, but it's also warming up the components that are going to be used in that. Now for the grinder, you can place the portafilter in here to receive the grinder, or receive the ground beans. We keep regular coffee in the machine, and then we purchased a separate grinder here just for decaf so that we could have both and not have to swap it back and forth. And we wanted a really good grinder from Breville that matches in the same damson blue color. So we keep our grinder set pretty fine, but it's going to vary depending on what kind of coffee you use. So I have it set to 12 seconds, which will almost fully fill this up. So sometimes you do, if this is packed a little tight, you have to give it a little tap. And then I'll shake the portafilter a little bit like this to help the coffee grounds kind of settle as it falls. And then after it finishes, after that 12 seconds, it's not quite full enough yet, so I'll do like another 1 second manually and then turn it back off and then give it another shake. And so now if I turn my little cutting board around here that we use for this, it does come with the tamper magnetic end. I love that you can just pull this out and it's right there. So now I can tamp that coffee down. And you'll just have to experiment with how hard you like to press it, how much pressure you're going for, and what generates the best coffee for you. So the fineness of your grind size, as well as the type of coffee you use, as well as how hard you press it and how tight you feel it, is going to determine what your coffee turns out like. So you can now wipe this off. This is ready to go, and I can snap it back into the machine. You just place your cup that you're going to catch it in right over top of those holes, and this is a double shot, so I'm going to hit double shot and let it run through its business. So it's going to start by pre-infusing, just adding a little bit of water, and then it will actually build up the pressure and run. One thing that's key with this is the time that the shot runs. So you see that took about 18 seconds, and I would say that's fairly normal. If you're going to run based on the pressure and what you're trying to get, 18 seconds for a double shot's pretty good. Got some beautiful crema there, so you do see the pressure worked out. That's something you're not going to get from a mocha pot. Even if you have the Bialetti one that comes with the weighted piece over the outlet spout to try to generate that pressure, you're just not going to get that same level of crema on that shot. So if you notice that the time is running longer, or it's having a harder time pressurizing through that, then it means that your machine needs to be cleaned. And you can see here mine actually showing that it needs to be flushed. So I'll go through that process and show you how to flush it as well. But that's something that you want to make sure that you do. The other really nice feature of this Breville machine is that you can get instant hot water. So you turn the dial on the side, you can catch hot water. This is useful if you're just trying to make something like hot chocolate or maybe tea, or if you want to do an Americano, which is kind of one of our go-tos that we do here. So you can catch how much ever water you want to catch with this. Once it's full to the point where you want to fill it to, then you can just turn the dial off on the side here. It's the same dial that's used for the steam wine, which I'll show you as well. But this is really nice to be able to heat water up, and I get that water for whatever drink you're trying to make. So I'll go ahead and stop it there, and then I can add the coffee for a nice Americano. Steam wand is really handy if you want to froth some milk for making a nice latte. So when you first turn it on, it's going to take a second for it to get going. So I usually will turn the wand in like this to one of those two drainage holes, turn it on, wait just a second for that steam to start. You can see it's mostly just shooting out water to start with. Then it kind of builds up heat, builds up the pressure, and now it starts to blow out steam. So I'll turn that off and then bring this back out to my pitcher of milk here or cream, and then you can go through the frothing process. And the point here is not to demonstrate how to froth milk or the techniques used there, but it's more so just showing you that it does have frothing capability and can heat up the milk and do the frothing and inject the air that you need to get a good latte. All right, now that that's frothed enough and it's reached the temperature, for me it just kind of gets to the point where it gets uncomfortable to hold. That's where I know it's kind of hot enough. And go ahead and turn that steam wand off. You're going to hear the back pressure kick into the drainage tray in the bottom. And then you can go ahead, now that I've let that stop, I can pull this off. You see the steam wand's kind of dirty. Just going to grab a wipe here and wipe it off. And then one key thing that you want to do, you want to wipe that off right away first so it doesn't harden and stick to your steam wand. But then one thing you want to do is make sure that you point this back off to the side and then run some steam through it again. Because what can happen is when you turn that off, if it's left in the cream, that as it turns back off, it can actually suck some cream back up into the steam wand, which would cause lots of problems. So you see now it's showing me I need to fill the tank, so it's running out of water, which is nice. You get that indicator that we need to add some more water to the back of the tank. So taking the tank off is fairly easy. Just slide that off and bring it around. You hear it beeping that it needs the tank to be filled. One thing to keep in mind, this tank does have a water filter in the bottom of it, so you can change these out. You can purchase those on Amazon as well, but that's really easy to just swap that out and put it in the bottom, and then you can set the dial to whatever month it is when you install that water filter. One thing I have noticed with this is right around where the magnet float is, because this magnet float is here so that it can tell the machine when the water runs out. So this floats, and then as the water goes down, it drops and then triggers the machine to give you that alert we just saw. But one thing I have noticed that's a bit of a pain is this is not in direct sunlight, but because we live on well water and there's minerals and hardness in the well, it can create some kind of growth and build up here in the unit itself or in the water tray. It is being filtered and it's not anything that's harmful. It's not like bacteria or mildew or problems that could create health issues, but it is something that you want to clean pretty regularly. This one needs to be cleaned, I haven't, but the frustrating part is you have to take a screwdriver and remove this component here where the magnet float is in order to clean down in there, and then getting that screw back in place is a bit of a pain, which is why I haven't cleaned it in a little bit, but just wanted to show you that so you're familiar with what that process is like. If you're on county water or you're or on city water where there's chemicals in the water, it would probably prevent that, but that's also probably not going to make that great a coffee. So just keep that in mind from a cleaning standpoint. And I usually just fill this up with tap water and get it mostly full, and then I can go back over to the machine and put it back in place. For maintenance items, there's really two things that you're going to need to do outside of just your normal day-to-day cleaning. So let me move some of this stuff out of the way. One, you can see how the coffee grounds have kind of fallen on this. It does have this empty me tag that pops up here when this fills up with water, so that's nice. And you can just take this over to the sink and dump it out. There is storage in the back where you can keep your other baskets and cleaning utensils. I don't usually do that because you can see the water builds up in here and it's kind of gross. So I don't keep stuff stored back in here for that reason, but you do take this out. I usually clean this about once a week, probably, where I'll just take it over to the sink and spray it off with the faucet, and then it's good and clean. I can put it back. So this is one maintenance item that you need to do. So I'll go ahead and dump that out into the sink. I won't bother cleaning it out, but I can just show you. This has been cleaned recently within the past couple of days, and you can see just the coffee grounds have fallen in there and can make it a little dirty. That's easy. That's not a challenging maintenance task. So the two other more involved maintenance tasks you want to do have to do with cleaning up the mineral buildup out of the machine. And that's really important depending on your water quality, but you want to make sure that you're cleaning up that mineral buildup, because if there are minerals in your water and you heat it up inside the machine, that those minerals can drop out of the water and attach to the heating elements and then clog up your machine and ruin it for life. So the two ways you do that is by using Descaler. And there's a special descaler cycle on the machine you need to use for cleaning that. And then also by using these espresso cleaning machine tablets. And this isn't only brand, there's other brands, but this is available on Amazon and fairly inexpensive. And this is what we've been using to maintain this machine as long as we've had it. So first, with the descaler, you use a half a bottle of this and pour it directly into the back of the tank. After taking your filter out, you don't want this to get into your filter, But you take your filter out, pour this directly into the back of the tank, and there's a line on the back of the tank that says where to fill it up for the descaling process. And then you go through the menu until you get it over to descale. So once it's on descale, then you can just push in on the button to choose descale. And then when you want to run the cycle, you press this button to go through and run the descaling cycle. It runs the descaling solution through the main espresso maker as well as through the wand so that it can descale both of those elements and clean that out really well. Then afterwards, you rinse out the tank in the back, add water, and then run a rinse cycle, which is part of this descaling cycle too. This D will change to an R for rinse, and then it runs water through the system and cleans that out. I found that to be very helpful for keeping the machine running clean and well maintained, and that really is going to extend the life of your machine. The other thing that was a little less obvious to me was using these espresso machine cleaning tablets. If I'd have read the manual, I would have known right away that's what you're supposed to do, but I did not do that initially. So when you see this flush pop up on the screen, the descaler will pop up the same way. But when you see this flush warning pop up on the screen, it means that the machine needs to be flushed. That doesn't just mean that it needs to be rinsed out. That means that it needs you to run the flushing process with this espresso machining cleaning tablets. So same thing, you go through the menu and then go over to flush, click in on the grind amount button, and then press the single shot button, and then it will run through the flush process. Before you do that, you empty out your portafilter basket. So knock that out into the knock box. And then it comes with a special little rubber gasket here that you put inside of the portafilter. So you most likely are supposed to do this with the single shot, but I do it with a double shot and I don't have issues. So you just take one of these tablets, here and put it down into the basket, into this little circle that's got cleaned out, and then lock it in place. And when you run that flush cycle, what's going to happen is it's going to build up pressure. It's going to start dissolving that tablet, and then the pressure can't go through because of this rubber gasket. And so just like you heard earlier when I was running the steam wand and I was done and I turned it off, it released back pressure down into the drainage. You're going to have that same situation. So it purposely builds up pressure that it can't overcome, and then it releases, and those chemicals that are dissolved with those espresso machine cleaning tablets are now going to back pressure through the system and go out into the drainage in the bottom. So you'll notice when you dump this afterwards that there's a little bit of that cleaning residue in here. So it'll do that several times, build up pressure and then back through the system, build up pressure and back through the system. And as it does that, it's breaking up any harmful residue or things inside the machine that would cause it not to perform well and not to be able to build up the pressure it needs to pull a good espresso shot. So this is really, really critical to keeping the machine working well. And then after you're done, you just take this off, dump out the remainder of the tablet that's still left in here, and then rinse it out good, rinse out your basket at the bottom good, and then you'll be good to go. Those two tips have been what has been so helpful to us to keep this machine lasting for a long time. And there you have it. We've been so incredibly happy with our purchase of this Breville Espresso machine. It's been great for our own coffee needs, but also for entertaining guests. When you think about the cost of a coffee drink and how we've been able to crank out coffee drinks for guests, as you see, we have our flavored syrups back here for making different flavored lattes or flavored iced drinks, hot drinks. It can do both. So it's really great to be able to crank out coffee drinks quickly when you're entertaining guests, or just for your own daily need to have a really great fresh cup of coffee. So I'd recommend this if you're a coffee enthusiast or you like to entertain guests. And this Breville brand has been fantastic. I did have a minor issue with the grinder when we first got it, and I opened a support case and sent it back to them, and they repaired it and sent it right back, or either sent me a different one. It looks the exact same, and it came in the box, looked brand new, and has worked great ever since. We haven't had any issues with either of the units since then, but just know that their support is really great as well. We've been really happy with this, and it's been a great coffee machine for us, for our coffee needs, and also for entertaining guests. So I'd highly recommend it. It's really easy to use. As you saw, you can quickly get shots out of the machine for making your coffee drinks, and really you just can't reproduce the crema that you get from the pressure of an espresso machine any other way other than an espresso machine. So there you have it.